Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about data points that matter when building your TAM. Now, if you've heard kind of how I like to think about taking market share or growing revenue, it's all about data. In fact, I believe that advertising using the black box, the industries and just the data LinkedIn gives us is the biggest problem with LinkedIn advertising today. I am genuinely of the belief that you're missing 50% of your market due to inaccuracies, data issues, and categorization problems before you ever actually deliver an impression. Don't believe me? Do a little exercise. Go on LinkedIn, look at Betterment. Ask yourselves, if I was trying to get Betterment as an account on LinkedIn, would I advertise to them as computer software or financial services? That little conundrum right there is what makes LinkedIn advertising so difficult, right? Because you're going after software companies. Yet most software companies maybe don't categorize themselves on LinkedIn as software. And so when you go after financial services, yeah, you get Betterment, but you also get Northwestern Mutual. And those are different things, okay? So what data points matter when trying to build out your TAM? Well, I'm gonna give you a couple and how to actually do it. First off, we're not gonna actually build out our audience in LinkedIn. We're gonna do it through a third-party data provider like ZoomInfo, Clearbit, Seamless, any of those, okay? Even Crunchbase. And what are we gonna look for? Well, I'm gonna give you 4 things to look for at that kind of account level that I found work really, really well for high data quality and consistency of targeting. So the first one is technology. What technology does a more mature buyer of your product or services have? For us, maybe it's Marketo, right? Marketo, we know that if a client has Marketo, they're usually considered more mature than somebody who has HubSpot. I think that's changing, by the way, but just a note, right? So we might look at their technology. Employee size. A lot of people make the mistake of using revenue. I don't love revenue, primarily because most companies are privately held and they don't have accurate revenue data for us to mine, okay? So I use employee size. Some little rules around employee size. Think about employee size in your targeting as the percent of companies that fit within the range. In other words, if you target companies under 50 employees, the vast majority of companies in your list are closer to 1 employee than 50. Little stuff like that will really help you when you think about what percent of your spend is going to what percent of your TAM, okay? So I usually try to avoid those kind of low leverage audiences where I get a lot of inaccuracy of my data, okay? The next is funding. For us, if we're targeting software companies, we might want to make sure someone has at least 25 million in funding, 50 million in funding, 100 million in funding. What's that critical criteria for you? You might not have this, but I found layering funding into your total addressable market kind of first party data build out really, really important. And then lastly, location. Are they in the United States or are they from the United States? Are they in Europe or from Europe? The way you set up kind of your location filters is really important when trying to build out a TAM. Most decision making at the corporate level, if you sell maybe a service or product that requires multiple departments to buy in or is integrated to a larger part of the organization, HQ makes those decisions. So a lot of times you want to make sure that you're advertising to a company whose headquarters is in your target location, and you'll be more successful at scale with audience resonating or being able to actually take the action you desire with your campaigns. So those are 4 things to think about when it comes to firmographics: technology, employee size, funding, and location. Now, the next thing is, how do we prioritize our TAM? Okay, now we have our 5,000, 6,000 accounts from our total addressable market. And by the way, you're gonna need to manually verify those. I love ZoomInfo. They're a customer of ours. They're awesome, great data. Things slip through the cracks, okay? So make sure you manually verify all your accounts. Like legitimately click on their LinkedIn, click on their website, and confirm that they're a fit. We did that. Our interns actually helped us do that. It was hundreds of hours. But now I know for a fact that every single solitary account I advertise, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook using Clearbit X, programmatic using StackAdapt, whoever that is, I know that every impression is going to an account that could hire us and be a great fit. That part makes me unlocks my creativity and gives me all sorts of options. So prioritization. Three things we're gonna look at. Industry-specific data, okay? So at Directive, we built our own database called Pulse. You might wanna check that out. If you're in software, it's really cool. It has over 800 sub-industries and verticals, and then ranks everybody with search marketing data. In other words, I have industry-specific data. I know who spends the most and spends the least in every vertical of SaaS and sub-vertical. That helps me prioritize and tier my TAM. 0, publicly traded, through 4, startup. And then I can prioritize them. I also know how well they rank on Google organically, so I can see how much they're investing there. I can see kind of everything I want to know to see how invested or mature they are in the services I offer, and then I can prioritize them tier 0 through tier 4. Pretty cool. Second thing I want to look at is job change. Okay, you can see this using the spotlight feature in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I know, and this is like empirically true, people, when they switch jobs, look towards outside help to help them drive change because they don't have internal buy-in yet. So I can actually filter on LinkedIn within my TAM people who have changed jobs in the last 90 days. Those are always my hottest accounts and prospects. Definitely recommend checking it out. Along that same spotlight kind of feature thing, the other thing I would look at is what % of your TAM has posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. The reason I say that is when LinkedIn gives you an audience, it's not always an active audience. In other words, these are all the people who have LinkedIn accounts, but just because someone has a LinkedIn account doesn't mean they're active on LinkedIn. So you'll get a much better understanding of your audience size if you don't just rely on LinkedIn's advertising tools, but pair their advertising tools with their Sales Navigator tools, and then you're going to start to get a lot more insights under the spotlight section in LinkedIn. Pretty cool, okay? And then lastly, I'm going to look at department size to prioritize. So I want to know if people change jobs the last 90 days. It's nice to know if they're active or not. And then I want to know the department size. How big is that marketing department? How big is that IT department? How big is that people ops department? Whatever that is. Because I might find that, when I look at department sizes, we do a lot better with larger departments, smaller departments, whatever that is. So something you might want to keep in track for prioritizing or tiering your total addressable market. And then lastly, we're going to talk about contact data. Titles are really important here. You get a lot of junk in LinkedIn's targeting, and they kind of pull weird titles from people, even if they're not their current titles sometimes. It's a little funky, and stuff can slip through the crack. So what I'd highly encourage you to do is, instead of asking yourselves, what titles do I want? Because there's lots of titles in this world that you might want. I would ask yourself, what titles do I not want? Right? Because once I have my total addressable market, my accounts, I want to enrich that with the necessary contacts. And then to look at that, the truth is you don't want there's certain titles you don't want. So make sure you use a lot of exclusions to exclude any and every title you could dream of that would not be a fit for your services or product, okay? And then the other thing is, I like to say no manager titles at companies over 200 employees. What you'll find is the bigger the company, the more non-decision making people they have. In other words, if I advertise to Adobe and I do not exclude manager, I can book 30 calls. Boom. Literally, like overnight. I can get everybody at Adobe to hop on a call with me with a $100 gift card. The problem is I have to try to navigate from that person to another person, and I'm like 18 rungs down the ladder. So when you advertise to bigger companies, bigger organizations with more headcount, don't try to target managers at companies over 200 employees. So hopefully that gives you some really good understanding of how to build out your total addressable market and the data points that you should care about. So thanks, and have a great rest of the day.